Hi and welcome to Aussie Sim. This video I'm doing today is just a little bit about my settings and my recent changes to my config file that just gave me a little bit of an improvement in visuals plus the VAS issues that I constantly keep having. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you briefly what settings I have, and then I'm going to take a flight. We're sitting currently at Sydney Airport. We're going to take a flight just down to Wollongong, and I'll show you what I can get out of the simulator currently. Now there's good news too, I'll talk about that. Lockheed Martin have confirmed that Prepared will be going 64-bit. Currently it's 32-bit, which has been a bit of an issue for flight simming lately anyway, with all the add-ons that we seem to load into the flight simulator. It's caused a few issues on the simulator crashing. I did cover this in a previous episode about the VAS usage, so I'll just run it through you quickly. I've got a 64-bit operating system, Windows 10, and the program itself is 32-bit, so it gives me a maximum 4 GB virtual address spacing memory allowance. If you look up here in the left hand corner, I'm using FSUIPC's the program there to have a look at how much memory I have left. In the previous episode I used another program. It showed me how much I was using, how much memory the program was using, and in this one it shows me how much memory I have left, and at the moment it's about 1.5 gig left. So once that starts dropping down, it becomes a problem, and then when we get to about 200 megabytes remaining, the simulator decides that it wants to start making some noises, notifying me that it's getting low on memory, and then eventually it will crash. So with the 64-bit release that they've announced that it's going to come out this year, that'll rectify the 4 gig limit that we have. I'm not sure what it will take it up to, whether it will double and go up to 8 gig, but it will solve a lot of issues that we have with this program crashing, meaning that during flights, especially long flights, we don't have to stop and save, reload the simulator to clear the memory cache and get it back up to a nice figure, so we can come in and land at a detailed airport without the simulator crashing. So that's some great news there, so hopefully that comes out soon. So what I'll do now, I'll just show you my settings that I have, and you can try these out if you want. So on my graphics display here, I've got my image and texture quality. I've got FXAA on. Alright, that smooths the edges of objects, and it does decrease performance, but it gives a better visual. My MSAA is set at 4 samples. My texture filtering is set at anisotropic 4 times, and I've got my texture resolutions at 1024 by 1024. I can increase that up to these figures here, but I'm pretty happy with it set at 1024 by 1024. I've got the tessellation enabled. I'm currently running it on a Nvidia GeForce GTX 670 at a resolution of 3840 by 2160. and so I'm running this on a TV, 4K TV. I've got the VSync on and the triple buffering with target frame rate unlimited. Now that'll just that's basically to stop the stutters. That has been proved that by having this on, it will stop the stuttering of the sim. So if I turn that off, we might find a bit of a performance change there, so I'll just leave that as it is. And I've selected wide view aspect on. I never had that on, but I've decided to go with that for the time being, and it seems to be working fine. As you saw from when we're sitting in the cockpit, everything looked fine. And the MipMap VC panels is on, and the 2D transparency is 0. So in the scenery, and this is the big one, this is where you'll see a lot of changes on how the simulator looks. So I've got the level of detail radius set on high, and the tessellation factor is set on high, sorry, and the level detail radius is set on max. So my mesh resolution is set at 5 meters, and texture resolution is set at 7 meters. Now these are the settings that you'd want to have for most of the scenery that you add in, especially FTX or Orbex scenery. They'll want you to have these settings at those. I've got the land detail texture set on, and scenery complexity is extremely dense. So this is the number of custom buildings and scenery objects that will display in the simulator. So for instance, like third-party add-on scenery, we want to have every building showing up to get the maximum out of that. And the auto-gen vegetation and building density, so I've set the auto-gen vegetation to normal and the buildings to very dense. With the water, a medium setting is fine. Anything higher than that, you'll start to see a little bit of a performance drop, but with a medium setting, the water looks, I think there's no difference between it being medium and high, so I leave it at medium. This setting here is for underwater, so I don't bother having that on. There's no need, I'm not going underwater at all, so that one's left off. And for the reflections, I've got the clouds, terrain and user vehicle set on. I've left these ones off. I don't know whether or not these are going to make any difference to performance. I haven't tested that out, but as it is here, it seems to be fine. I've got special effects set to low. These are not a big thing that need to worry about, especially when just doing flights back and forward or wherever you want to go. It's mainly for fireworks and different things like that, so it's no need for that. Because this simulator can do military things, like you know, I believe they use it for military training as well. So obviously, if they're firing weapons and things like that, you'd want to see special effects off the rockets and gunfire, I suppose. So I don't need that. The lighting, I had this turned off recently, and there is a little bit of a performance difference between having this on and off. I've selected it on, and these are my settings here to get the simulator to look the way it looks. So I've got my brightness set to 1, my bloom is set to 1.6, and I've turned my saturation down. So the saturation's probably the biggest one here. It takes away the colours to be so in your face. I suppose that's the way to say it. This one makes it look a little bit darker. It takes the colouring out a bit, and just I suppose it just makes it look a little bit better, more realistic. So you can try that. You can try any setting you want, but that's the settings I have, and I like the way they are. So if you're happy with the way mine looks, you can copy those. The dynamic reflections I've switched off. The landing lights and the lens flare I have switched on, as you can see. The shadow quality, I've got that set at low, and that's perfect as it is. I think any higher would just be performance issues. So you'll see it when we're flying that the shadows look fine. So you can go with that one. I've enabled the terrain to receive shadows, and these are the settings for the terrain, cloud and object casting. So you can try those, you can muck around with them and put them up and put them down, whatever you want to do. The internal and external vehicle both cast and receive shadows, and I've selected everything else off. The weather, I use Active Sky 2016, so I've got my weather settings here. So I've got a maximum cloud drawing distance of 80 miles, which is fine, and the cloud coverage density I've set to maximum. Now you will get a performance drop in this, so if I had this set, you know, back here, it probably wouldn't be an issue of frame rates, but with Active Sky, I keep getting a warning coming up telling me that if I want the overcast to display properly, I need to set this at maximum. So I've done that, and it seems to be, you know, I can handle the frame rate drop. Volumetric fog is selected on, and I have detailed clouds, and thermal visualization is selected off. The rate at which the weather changes over time is no change, and I've left it so I do receive turbulence and thermal effects. Another one here is traffic, so I've set my traffic to 15. For me, that's pretty good. Any higher than that, I start, especially at busy airports, it gets pretty full on in the performance drop with so many aircrafts loading up. So 15 seems to be a nice setting for me, and I've turned general aviation off. I'm not worried about that, and the vehicles around the airport, not worried about that either. I've got my road vehicles set at 5. I could probably go higher with that, but for now I've just got them set at 5, and ships and ferries and leisure boats set at 0. And vehicle labels, I switch that off because I don't want to see the details about an AI aircraft flashing around, unrealistic. So that's pretty much the settings there that I have for my sim, and most of these settings I do have to say where I got them from, and it was a big help. So that's from Aus Flight Simmer, and he is another Australian enthusiast that does some great videos on YouTube about Flight Simulator, and yeah, thanks to him I was able to get some nice settings in here, then a few more little tweaks that I was able to do to make my simulator look and perform the way it does. So it's just going to load up again. So while it's doing that, I'm just going to open up my config file, and this is the prepared 3D config file, and just double check, make sure what I'm displaying is correct. So the only thing that I've changed in the config file, I've left everything else the same as the way I deleted it and let it reset and build itself again. And I had my Lod Radius, this is the big one for me. I had this set at the default setting, which was 4.5, and what happened was close by everything looked okay, and in a distance everything was very blurry, and I just did not like the way it looked. I just felt that it was very unrealistic. It didn't, you know, it just didn't feel right. So I had a little bit of a read about what settings I could set this to, and how it would impact the simulator. So I decided, you know what, I'll just try it out, test it. So I jumped it up to 8.5, and the improvement I got was actually pretty amazing. So the visuals I get now from a distance, especially when you're flying up high, you can it renders the scenery at a much further distance, so that took away all the blurriness that I was getting in the simulator. But what I did read, that there was an impact if you did put this up, and it was an impact on the VAS usage, because the simulator had to render more scenery, it had to use more memory to do that. But what I noticed that it actually didn't change that much. You know, as you can see, I've got Orbex scenery, I've got Sydney scenery by Fly Tampa, and I've got the Wollongong scenery by Orbex. So it's loading quite a lot, plus I've got Active Sky doing the weathering. So to have 1.5 gig remaining after setting this setting up is pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that. So you can try that out. You can set it to 8.5 and see how the simulator looks, and if it's causing too much of a problem, you can lower it back down again. So with that said, I'll jump back in the sim, and we'll just take another a flight from Sydney down to Wollongong. Down the left hand corner here is my frame rates now. They're sitting at 15, 16. Now just remember that I am recording this, so this does drop. When I'm not recording, it sits at around about 20, 21, 22 frames per second. So, and although 20 frames isn't the best, and that could be purely because of my computer, we're in the F-22 Raptor. As you can see. So we'll take off and we'll head south. And once we get in the air, I'll talk about the scenery that the scenery problems that I was having. So once we get up in the air, you can sort of see in the distance here the difference of quality here. So once we, and as you can see, the detailing here is still quite good. So I'm just going to make a sharp left-hand turn. Slow the aircraft down a little bit. Alright, so we're going back south over the airport here. Now before, all this scenery was blurry and it wasn't loading correctly. It was taking time to load when I had the load radius at LOD radius set at 4.5. So this is all pre-loaded now, the setting that I have. And the same with this side here. You can see in the distance, this is all pretty sharp texturing. Before it was just terrible. All this would have been blurry. Now we're currently at 5,300 feet. So we'll just put on the afterburners and we'll just head south. Now you can watch another video that I did on the Sydney to Wollongong flight in the F-22 Raptor, and you can compare that one. You can have a look, because that one was when the settings were at I used different settings and it was at the original default setting, so that'll, you know, you can use that for a comparison to see what difference I had there. And as you can see, the VAS usage is dropped down to 1.3, but it's actually pretty stable. It's not going too far down. Now as we fly south, this is the Royal National Park. This is the second biggest national park in the world, and it's just south of Sydney. And down here, as you can see, it's a little bit blurry now, but that's what you would sort of expect looking at a distance. Before, with the previous setting, it would have been a blurry about at this level here. So, and it was just loading up. As we sort of creep down, this little bit would load, then this little bit would load. And don't forget, we're doing it about 700 knots at the moment, so we're flying pretty quick. And for the computer to have to render this scenery pretty quickly. So once we get down a little bit further, we'll slow down a little bit. We're going to land at one of the airports down here, Wollongong Airport. And it's a, for anyone that doesn't know, Wollongong Airport is, or it's the Illawarra Airport. It's a general aviation airport, very small. And a couple of years ago, they retired one of the Qantas 747s down there. They flew that out of Sydney Airport, down here at about 4,000 feet, and boarded into land one of the runways. And when we get down to the airport down here, you'll see it parked off to the left. As you can see, it's a little bit blurry now. That's because of the speed we're travelling at. So this area hasn't rendered as quickly as I would have liked it to, but it's starting to render and define itself at the moment. So this mountain here in this road, this is Mount Ousley, and this is the main road up and down to the motorway up to Sydney. Off to the left here is Wollongong, the main city, and we got Port Kembla down south a little bit, and that's becoming quite popular at the moment. There's a lot of ships coming in here, cruise ships that are docking down here. It's only happened this year, sorry, the end of last year and this year. So, and this water area here is the Lake Illawarra. So as we continue south, this is Dapto, coming into Albion Park, which is where the Illawarra Airport is. And every year they have a air show down here, and they have a lot of older aircrafts and a lot of new aircrafts. And it's pretty amazing. They have these fighter jets flying over the Illawarra. Alright, so you can see the white light just to the left here, that's the runway. So I'm just going to fly in this direction, turn left and land. So as I slow down here, we'll start to see these areas rendered correctly. Just going to lower the gear. Trying to get ourselves established. So as you see with the settings, the auto gen settings, the vegetation, there's not a lot of it, but there's enough to be to look nice, and the same with the buildings as well. There's enough to populate the scenery around us. So, and as you can see, I'm getting 25, 26 frames here. So obviously when it's not recording, it's usually up at around 30. So I'm pretty happy with 30 frames. Anything above 25's what you want. So I'm just a little bit high. Just bring my nose down. Not too worried about it, but fleet a little bit too much, but there we go. And if you look off to the left here, you'll see the jumbo that they've got parked there. So that's now part of the museum. And we'll just bring the aircraft to a bit of a stop. Turn around to the left. And I apologise for the background sound of my bird. It's my wife's bird. She decided to buy it and stick it in the same room that I record my videos. So we've got a little bit of ambience in the background of him. But as you can see, my simulator's looking pretty good and seems to run pretty well. So if this is what some of the problems that you're having in your sim, then feel free to use them. Comment me below and let me know if this helped or if it didn't help, or if there's anything that you want me to look at to try and see if there's a way to improve, or maybe you might know something that could improve my simulator. But I'm just going to stop here. Park brake on. We'll open up the canopy. Give you a quick outside. Shut the engines down there. Alright, well thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you make use out of it. Like I said, leave a comment below, hit the like button, and make sure that you subscribe. And stay tuned for some more videos, hopefully, and we can do some flights without having to worry about the simulator crashing. Alright, till next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.